Where are we? Are we back? Is this real life? I'm sorry, the suede couch may never ever be seen again. You can throw an F in the chat. But while we're missing the couch, it's really not that special. I know it holds a special place in your heart, but it really doesn't hold a special place in my heart. Like 6 of you might actually care, but there's a car that's like out there too, a car that really is only truly special for a handful of people, while the rest of the world wonder why you would ever own this thing. Because,
well, I hate to say it, but it's just a Volvo.
I'm Alex at FI on Instagram, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna be talking about a car that not many people know about until they drive one, and then they just never, ever go back. A car that by true definition is unsuspecting. A car that is, without a doubt, one of the most interesting cars in the world. A car that has tried its damnedest to go toe-to-toe with the likes of the then M3 and S4. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna be talking about you wanting to own a Volvo S60R. And if you're just jumping into this, hello, hi, that was a sneak attack, hi. Welcome, and if you're just looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com, where we literally have everything, including wheels for your funky little Volvo, because it has a weird bolt pattern. Type it up, just letting you know, it's a little bit funky.
That's okay.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe so we can keep making banging videos like this, for a low monthly payment of 1 comment per video, and I promise we'll always love you. I got my old coffee cup back. Max is staring at me, it's really weird. Anyway, Volvo has always been an interesting car manufacturer. Bred as a safe family vehicle that do just about anything. Volvo was that brand. They've always been that brand. It was the safety brand, the brand that people bought when they were scared that cars would kill them. I mean, it was like, you didn't buy a Subaru at that time, you bought a Volvo. Volvos were the safe pick. And even though Volvo has been around since 1927, which is a damn long time, the S60 came into this little world just a few months after Y2K with 4 doors and came to replace the S60, which if you want something that's gonna make your brain go a little bit hot, you're gonna wanna figure out how all the nomenclature for Volvos work. Anyway, the first generation would stay in production from 2000 to 2009, featuring multiple facelifts, which is why there's that little awkward turtle thing going on when people see so many slightly different versions of the S60, but they're all a little different. Like college individuals with jean jackets and Uggs. Like, they are the same, but they're not really. But Volvo really never had their true R range or performance line. Volvo, previous slide to the hip of Renault, never really allowed Volvo to create a pure Swedish performance machine. And even though some believe that the R line became possible due to Ford's purchase of Volvo in 1999, the R line was conceived before that, especially with the A50 T5R, which was by all definitions the picture you'd see if you Googled up the word sleeper. It is a toaster, and it is built like a train, and it wasn't die, and it's fast as and it just does good work, okay? So in enters the S60R a few years later. The Tobey Maguire of Spider-Man 3 after the Venom takeover, bumping into people wearing black, acting all sassy, shaking the good boy syndrome, and never apologizing for not opening the door. That was Volvo creating the S60R. The S60R in 2004 was a pure Swedish Volvo machine that featured a Haldex all-wheel drive system and 300 beautiful ponies out of an inline 5-cylinder, which if anybody knows, inline 5 cylinders with a little bit of exhaust work sound marvelous. You get in a 6-speed manual transmission, massive front Brembos, and electronically adjustable suspension, which was interesting for 2004, and some neat little gauges that would make Need for Speed Underground 2 jealous. This car was awesome. It was trying to shake the old nice safety little thing and show that it was serious. The all-wheel drive was a huge step forward for this car because of the viscous coupling of the old Volvos felt a little bit like a drag of a system. Viscous all-wheel drive systems are a little bit laggy. And the S60R could do it all pretty well in most conditions. It was still a Volvo, so it was safe. It was conservative, but they tried enough to make it feel like a wolf's in sheep's clothing. But it really wasn't. It was more just like a golden retriever in sheep's clothing because it was still a Volvo. Like, it was still Like it's just like what your nan would drive. The S60R would get a name change in future generations as Volvo would change their R title to R Design and inevitably change over to the Polestar trim, which is Volvo's racing division. It's a Need for Speed, okay? It starts to get a little bit weird with Polestar and R trims and all that, but the generation of the S60 continued, and you'll now see the S60 Polestars floating around few and far between, mostly because they are a little bit expensive, and they're really not all that marketed. Production on the second generation ended in 2018, and the S60 name lives on in a third generation that looks incredibly good. I might say S60 looks sharp. It's made in Ridgeville, South Carolina, America. If you want to buy domestic, buy a Volvo. I'm not entirely sure how that makes sense with a Swedish car manufacturer in the United States, but that's just how it is sometimes. It is what it is. But most people know the S60R with the polygon style taillights, the aggressive fascia that never really seems to date, and an interesting logo that looks a little bit like another manufacturer that is way less reliable and has a tendency to start on fire. Right. But wait, hey, ven para acá. We're not, okay, Linda, listen. We're not here to talk about the history of the S60R, okay? We're wanting to talk about you wanting to own one of these little odd ducks that just couldn't get in the front of the M3 in time to make a dent. So, you want a Volvo S60R. Well, set down your beard cream, Sean, and grab your favorite $50 Ray-Ban sunglasses from a tagged post on Facebook because we're about to talk about what it's like to actually own one of these beautiful four-door machines. I like S60Rs, by the way, in case you couldn't tell. They are a little weird, they are a little like in its own place, but they are pretty cool. If you're looking to jump into an S60R, you need to know that these things are jam-packed full of technology, which is what Volvo really wanted to do in the mid-2000s. Like, a lot of technology. Also because it's from the mid-2000s, there's gonna be some cool technologies that can turn into massive just piles of junk. I mean, problems. It's just kind of what happens. So just be careful that if you are buying a Volvo that it was well maintained, especially when it comes down to the technology bits with the suspension. The torque in the first and second gears were limited to pretty much 250 foot-pounds in the automatic, so you need to be careful with modifications for that if you do have an automatic car. Sleeve cylinders are prone to failure, and that happens usually around 60,000 miles. Leaks and struts can become an expensive repair, especially with Volvo's 4C technology, which was a really fancy suspension tech that they had in the Volvo S60Rs at the time. People can get quotes upwards towards $1,800 just to replace the leaky old struts. The maintenance items are all pretty standard, but those records are especially important on these cars due to their age and of course because they're touted as a performance sedan. Obviously having Brembo big brakes is going to make the brake cost just a little bit more. So you always just want to keep an eye on that sort of stuff if you are looking to pick up an S60R. Now S60Rs claim to have weak cylinder walls, so be conscious of that when you're throwing tons of power at it. However, most people will modify them anyway with just rebuilding them as the issues arrive. Volvos aren't inherently super terrible to work on, they just require a little bit of extra knowledge, a little bit tougher than your typical 350. Because they have a bunky bolt pattern, wheel options are limited, but most people end up going with just a wider 5-spoke wheel, even though the OEMs were nearly the same. Volvo S60R 5-spoke wheels are the coolest, the simplest, and just some of the most badass wheels I could ever imagine in my entire life. They're so conservative and they're so Volvo, okay? You can get some BC Racing coilovers, roof vac, and some all seasons. You're pretty much ready to roll with a Volvo S60R. Just be careful. Suspension will get you. Volvos are a unique space owned by unique individuals. And I joke, but Volvos really are in a weird spot. They're neat, they are quick, and they're fun sedans. They take power, but not really too much. They're fun as heck, but they can be a little quirky with issues that you have to be smart about. They're dated, but they never really aged. They're like an odd looking George Clooney because they look at them and it looks like they've never changed. It never really took off because the M3 still took its spot during the time, but that doesn't really matter. They're sporty, but not uncomfortable. They just can't really pick a mood. People that do enjoy modifying them get them as close to possible as blowing up, and that's something that you just have to be cognizant of. And if that's not enough, the S60 is constantly compared to its predecessor, which many people feel is a stronger car that can take more abuse, even though the S60R in my eyes, I think looks a little bit better. And I like them. I like them a lot. Volvo S60R, banger of a car, and it's one of those things where if you do take to a car show, if you do take to an autocross event, you're gonna get people to come up to you and ask you what you're doing driving a Volvo around, and you're gonna have to point at the brakes that nobody else knows about, because it's what it is. So what do you think about the Volvo S60 R? Let us know in the comment section below. And of course, if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. And if you have an aftermarket Volvo with your bunky wheel pattern or bolt pattern, you got something different than 5-spoke wheels, add it over to our gallery over at fitmentindustries.com/ad. I'm Alex from Fitment Industries. We hope you enjoyed. We will see you later. Peace.